Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Patry, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to ask Dana to stop sharing her screen for a moment. There you go. We're all there. Hey, it's nice to see some faces out there and some names, even some faces I recognize, and certainly several names I recognize as well. Welcome tonight to our talk on the Arctic, on you know where to go, how to see it, when to go. We're lucky tonight to have Dana Walker to tell us all about it. But before I'd like to present myself to the group here, there's a good number of you here tonight. My name is Mark Patry. I am the owner and founder of Cultural and Natural Heritage Tours. And more recently, we acquired the website and the mailing list of Galapagos Tours, another company that was operating very similarly to us. And we try to have these events from time to time to let people know about our trips and the kinds of things we do, but also give them a bit of background on these great destinations that we like to help you experience. And tonight we have people coming in from our meetup group, the Bucket List Nature Travel. That's a meetup group that we have. And we have people coming in through Eventbrite and people coming in directly through Zoom, people we reached out to through our own newsletters, our websites, and our different efforts. So thank you for taking a bit of time out on your Thursday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, or maybe even in other parts of the world. It's a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to pass this over to Dana, and Dana's going to tell you about the Arctic. And throughout this particular talk, you're free to please note your questions in the chat, and I'll be monitoring those. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be going over your questions so that we make sure if you have any, they'll be answered. So Dana, over to you.
All right, thanks, Mark. I'm just trying to find my notes here on when I stopped sharing, I lost my my note page. Okay. And then we just got to back up. Almost there.
I hope you notice my checkered shirt. I thought I'd dress up for the Arctic tonight for this talk.
That's great. You look fantastic. All right. Are we seeing everything? Do we see me on the page? Everything looks good?
We see you, but not the shared screen.
Not the shared screen. Okay.
No.
Let's try this again.
Believe it or not, we practiced twice before this. It was working just fine.
There we go. The trick is to not get frustrated and just keep trying, I think.
Yeah, here we go. That does not look like the Arctic.
How about that?
Very good.
Okay.
All yours, Dana.
Perfect. So it's my pleasure to be here today. I'm coming to you from the west coast of Canada. And for the past 15 years, I've been exploring the polar regions, and it's a passion that's really shaped my life in so many incredible ways. I've always loved traveling solo, and I really relish in a sense of solitude that comes with each unique journey that I go on. And living so close to the Arctic, I think it really made it feel accessible in my whole life. And Antarctica seemed like a distant dream, but after my first trip to Antarctica in 2012, I really realized that the polar regions had become a part of me. So it's woven into my very DNA now, and I knew then that I would always be an explorer at heart. So over the last decade, I've shifted my focus and I've become more specialized in the Arctic. So that's what I want to share with you today, of some of the really incredible opportunities that the Arctic has to offer. So please jot down your questions so that we can talk about it at the end, because even if I don't know the answer to the question, I'm definitely able to find out for you. So there's a list of some of the places that I've spent a lot of time. I actually lived in the north for about 5 months one winter, experiencing some beautiful northern lights. So another wonderful experience. So we're going to start by talking about the two different types of ways you can travel in the Arctic. So the first would be like a land-based experience. And you can do land-based or ship-based. And with a land-based experience, you're looking at a real true connection to the land when you're out there. And you're more exploring at your own pace and you're getting really engaged in the local communities. So you get a bit of a deeper experience. And then with all land-based experiences in the Arctic, you will likely have a twin otter flight involved to get you into these remote locations. And the pilots that operate these planes have years of experience flying in cold weather conditions. They're often your luggage handler as well, and they'll give you headphones so you can communicate during the flight. It's almost like having a private guide. They'll feel like your best friend when you leave that plane. It's always good to remember too that the transportation used to get you to the location is often one of the most exciting moments of an Arctic expedition or an Arctic trip. Now, this is a little bit of a scene of what it would be like to be in a land-based experience in a lodge type setting. So this would be your cozy adventure lodge in the middle of the wilderness somewhere with a beautiful scenic view outside. You could also have the standalone cabin experience. So the opportunity here to stay in the lodge and have a land experience as well with a standalone cabin. So these cozy lodges, they will have chefs for every meal. They will have all sorts of indoor activities as well as outdoor activities. There's going to be like a cozy bar. They'll have some signature cocktails. One thing I like to do is get the chef to make a thermos of hot chocolate and go off on a snowshoe tour for the day. And then we've also got some things like fat biking because the Arctic tundra is cold and frozen, and sometimes we get that dry, hard-packed, wind-blown snow, and we can ride bikes for miles and miles. Sometimes we go ice fishing, and that's quite a unique experience. And we've got tons and tons of cross-country ski trails out there. And then for a little extra, we can do a snowmobile tour as well. So let's look at the map because I want to show you where this beautiful adventure lodge is located. So you see Yellowknife. That's beautiful Great Slave Lake. The star is the Adventure Lodge. So that's an eco lodge. It's about 100 kilometers from Yellowknife on one of those Twin Otter plains. And in the summer, it's open as well for fishing tours and stuff like that. In the winter, we land on the ice. And of course, in the summer, we land on the lake. Those snowmobile tours that you saw that brief picture of, those snowmobile tours would go from the lodge out to Great Slave Lake. And in the winter, when the lake freezes over, there's these massive pressure ridges that push up in the lake and create these beautiful ice formations. So we like to snowmobile out there and look at that. The other way you can do it is you can go a little bit more rugged and have your experience at a land-based camp on the ice in tent form. So these tents will be set up on plywood platforms. They've each have their own propane heater. We've got operations people that help keep you cozy and warm throughout a trip like this. And these types of trips, I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are, but this is the location of where they are. So this big island is Baffin Island. So these trips will start and end in Ottawa, which is great for those of you that are in Ottawa already. The flights are included, and then you would fly directly up to Iqaluit on Baffin Island, and from there you jump on one of those little planes, and you would either go over to Kikatarjuak, which is on the east coast of Baffin Island, and that's where the spring bear camps are, or you would go north up to Arctic Bay, to the north end of Baffin Island, and that's where the floe edge trips are. So these expeditions are all usually about scenery, experiencing the northern climate in the spring, and the spring bears, of course. So here's our mode of transportation, also known as in the north as a komatuk, and we'd pull this with the snowmobile, take photographers out to view beautiful mother bears as they're bringing their cubs out of the dens for the first time. So that is quite a moving experience, to see a mother bear. And of course, we take all the safety precautions, but to share those moments with her, and you can see how cute they can be as well. So spring cubs are the most adorable, I have to say. They're very, very cute. So lots of opportunities for northern lights on these trips. They operate in March and April, and lots of opportunities for bears as well. And of course, lots of other wildlife. So you'll often see the fox out there. The sunsets and the sunrises are some of the longest you will ever experience. They can be anywhere from colors like this to those soft cotton candy pinks and blues. And then we talk about a little bit about the floe edge. So this is a great shot from David Briggs about of the narwhal at the floe edge. And a floe edge trip in the Arctic refers to the boundary between the floating sea ice and the open water of the ocean. So this floe edge is often visually striking place, where the sea ice meets the relatively warmer ice-free water, you might say. And it's unique, and it's an important part of the Arctic ecosystem. And because of this, the wildlife will gravitate towards the floe edge this time of year, and it's really a remarkable experience you'll never forget. Another way to travel in the Arctic, so these were your land-based expeditions. Let's talk about ship-based expeditions as well. So a ship-based experience is going to give you a wider range to more remote locations. So fewer time spent at these locations, but many more locations. You're still going to have the wildlife encounters. You're still going to have the spectacular scenery. It's going to be in luxury and comfort. Not that the tents on the platforms aren't comfortable, but they're not luxury per se. So let's talk about some ship-based experiences in the Arctic, because we've got some great ones coming up. Let's start with Northwest Passage. And we're getting to know each other here, so you must know that I'm a bit famous for Northwest Passage. It stole my heart in 2013, and I've been raving about this trip ever since. I've been on it, I think, 3 more times since then, and it never disappoints. It's hands down one of the best Arctic itineraries out there. It covers everything I want in an expedition. It's got wildlife, scenery, history, culture, and archaeology. I come away from this trip every time feeling so much more educated than the time before. We're going to be doing a webinar specifically on Northwest Passage on May 1st, and I will dive a little deeper into what it is. But for 2025, we have 2 trips sailing end of August into September. So you can start in Toronto, end in Calgary, or you can start in Calgary and end in Toronto. It goes right up through the Northwest Passage. It does a little bit of the west coast of Greenland. It hits all the bucket list spots like Beachy Island, the Franklin Graves, all along the Baffin Island coast. It'll go into some old Hudson's Bay posts as well. So this trip sails on the Greg Mortimer. You can feel free to ask me anything about ships at the end. I've been on a lot of different expedition vessels in the polar regions. This Northwest Passage will be on this vessel called the Greg Mortimer. And then this, I believe, is a little video that I took in, either it was last summer or the summer before. And as we know with icebergs, what's above the water, there's always twice as much under the water. So they tend to leave this really turquoise blue around the iceberg. And this was, I think, as we were coming across the Baffin Bay and we were entering into Lancaster Sound, these beautiful bergs just kept popping up and they were mesmerizing. And I was supposed to be sitting at dinner at the time, but the ship I was on had this gorgeous restaurant on the top deck. And I just had to keep getting up from my seat to view that beautiful iceberg. We always make a stop at Beechy Island, as I said, and this is the only site in the Arctic where I cross my fingers every time that we won't see a polar bear. Because if, as you know, if we see a polar bear on the land, we can't land there. So stepping off the Zodiac on this landing will chill you right to the bone because the history here just gives you goosebumps, and you'll learn about all of that on the ship. So Franklin and his men got stuck here in 1845, and it's where the HMS Erebus made its first stop during their journey over. And it was during this time that they faced some of their early challenges, and 3 of the members died here and were buried on this island. And then there's another grave site here too of an explorer that came searching for him. So I've been on this landing in all sorts of different weather. I've been here when it's snowing, when it's beautiful sunshine, and it's actually in the beautiful sunshine, the water is turquoise blue and it looks like the most tropical beach you've ever seen, except the temperature is about 30 degrees off. So the Northumberland House is just down from these graves. And like I said, it is a very spiritual, mesmerizing place. You're going to see a lot of different wildlife on a Northwest Passage trip. I wish I could cover all of it. But as I said, on May 1st, we'll do that more in-depth webinar on the specific trip. But whales, when you're in Greenland and exploring the coast of Greenland, you'll see lots of whales, maybe some muskox, probably a beluga, maybe if you're lucky, some narwhals. So a really, really well-rounded trip. In 2026, on September 13th to the 26th of September, we have a group departure. And this is a close second to the Northwest Passage because there's so many big highlighted things about this trip, but it starts in Iceland, first of all, which I think is really fantastic because you could add a land package in Iceland before starting this trip. So the charter flight from Reykjavik, Iceland, flies over to Kangerlussuaq, Greenland, and you'll spend a few days exploring the coast of Greenland. You're going to hit the most populated area of Greenland. And when I say populated, it's never the communities are not very populated. It's, rare to see people, but you'll see the colorful houses, and you'll see, a lot of children playing out on their bikes and that kind of thing. And Greenland is, it's very green, it's very lush, and there's a lot of ice. So the bergs are shedding, they're dropping big icebergs out into their fjords and bays. So you're going to experience a lot of that. And then it heads over into Canada and it visits one of my favorite Arctic hamlets, Pangatung. So it's probably one of the most famous Arctic communities. It's quite artsy. They've got a weave shop and a print shop there. I think there's even some carving. And the culture and community is, it's very heartwarming. So as we leave there, nobody ever wants to leave there, but as we sail away, we head down to the Torngat Mountain National Park and through the Labrador Sea, and we get to explore along the coast of Newfoundland before we end that trip in St. John's. So a very well-rounded trip, very exciting to see the Torngat Mountain National Park, a lot of highlights. We're going to be doing that trip on the Ocean Explorer. Now, you might have noticed we have a little bit of a favorite when it comes to our ship's design that we choose to use. And that inverted hull at the beginning of at the front of the ship there in the bow, that is called the Ulstein X-Bow design. Now, we use these ships because they're very comfortable for passengers. They're the most stable there is in the industry. and they're lovely, lovely ships. I've traveled on some real rodeo ships, and these ones are not that at all. They're very, very comfortable. So again, we don't want to talk about the ships because that's just our adventure platform, and we want to have a little look at the destination. So on that Greenland, Labrador, and Newfoundland trip, this would be a very picturesque idea of what you would see in Greenland. So it's a very small community in Greenland. We always want to minimize our impact here and be cautious in the communities. If there's a church, they'll open it up for us, or if they have a cultural center, they'll open that up for us as well. And we usually have contact with the communities before we arrive so that they know we're coming, and they're very happy to see us. But it's so nice to have moments to just sit on a bluff here overlooking a little hamlet in Greenland, and it's quite humbling just to take it all in. And then there's a gorgeous shot of a little area up near Pangertung in Canada. And this is very typical Baffin Island picture. You'll see tons of this, lots of glaciers coming down right into the water. You get a real sense of the traditional clothing and the culture that there is in Pangertung. And then we'll get into those icebergs that flow down Iceberg Alley and end up in St. John's, Newfoundland, as we're coming down the coast. And we'll have an experience in the Torngat Mountain National Park, and you'll get to walk in places where people just don't get to go hiking, and you'll get to revel in those cultural spirits. And it's a remarkable destination. Let's talk about Svalbard. Now, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of where Svalbard was, but I just couldn't find the map that I liked. So this shows you the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard, but let me explain a little bit about where it is. So it's midway between the northern coast of Norway and the North Pole, essentially. So Norway to Svalbard would be about 970 kilometers. And as I mentioned, Svalbard is an Arctic archipelago, and it's renowned for its magnificent glaciers, rugged landscape, abundant wildlife, especially polar bears. There's more concentrated concentrated polar bears in this area because it's so small. And it's a hub for research and climate studies as well. So you can travel to Svalbard May through September. But in my experience, I will always recommend the end of May through June. It's the best bear sightings because the ice is still hanging around. You want to see bears on fast ice, so you want some of that ice to still be fastened to the shore, and the bears to be able to get out into the fjords to hunt seals. And we're going to be hosting a trip in Svalbard probably next in 2026. So stay tuned for details on that, but feel free to reach out about Svalbard anytime. We have a great partnership with a company up in Norway, and we use the MS Quest for our Svalbard departures. Now, you might have noticed this ship looks a little bit smaller than the other ones. The other ships that we're using carry 132 passengers. This ship only carries 50 passengers. And the reason we've chosen that is because in Svalbard, it's very protected and it's very restricted. So some landing sites, you're only allowed 45 people on shore at one time. And some of the bigger ships are just not allowed into these really small areas that we want to go. So we run a program that's true expedition style. We want you to be off that ship as much as possible. So we've chosen this really lovely family style vessel, 50 passengers only, and that's going to get you boots on the ground, hiking around, hanging out with the reindeer. Just thought I never put a picture of a reindeer in my slideshow today, and they are the funniest creatures you will ever see. And they won't stop, like they're not afraid of you. They'll just walk right across in front of you, and yeah, it's a chuckle. We can talk more about all the wildlife, but belugas, you'll see beluga whales in Svalbard, and this bearded seal. Now, quite often when we're on the Zodiacs, it's pretty normal to cruise by an ice floe and have a guy like this kind of hanging out to greet you. So nice up close and personal with a bearded seal. And of course, I will never forget one of my first trips up in Svalbard. I was getting embarked on the ship in the afternoon. And of course, you have a big celebratory dinner and everybody's really excited. And we've got 24 hours sunlight. And we're out on the bow of the ship at midnight. And this just lovely polar bear is hanging out on the fast ice and he's hunting beluga whales. There was 3 beluga whales swimming along in front of the ice here. And he's so fat, he looks like he maybe had one already. But I remember thinking, it was midnight, and I remember thinking, I need to go to bed. I'm going to ruin this whole trip if I keep staying up all night. And I did go to bed, and lo and behold, I missed everybody saw a blue whale after I went to bed. So Svalbard never disappoints. It's very, very wildlife heavy. Let's talk about a few of the Antarctica trips that CNH Tours is offering as small group departures. So we've got a trip that goes across the Antarctic Circle, February 21st through March 5th, 2026. You can see there that Greg Mortimer vessel with the X-bow design. That's going to be our lovely, comfortable ship that takes us down to the Antarctic Peninsula. And what we'll do is we'll explore the peninsula and we'll head down across the Antarctic Circle. Now, famous for crossing the Antarctic Circle is not only ticking that off your bucket list, but there's always more Adelie penguins, and you see them here. There's about four species of penguins you're going to see on an Antarctic Circle crossing, and the Adelies are one of them. So they're hanging out on an ice floe here, and the reason that the wildlife gravitates to the peninsula is because that's what melts first in the summer in the Antarctic summer season, and so the wildlife will gravitate towards the peninsula to have their babies. Makes sense. And what a lovely place to go for a hike. I've included this because it really shows, the little groups. You're never with, a huge group of people. You're off in your own little groups. Antarctica is very safe. You can see the flags that our expedition staff is staked out there to let you go for a wander safely, showing where you need to stay away from. And then these beautiful, beautiful backdrops. So stretch your legs or hang out on shore with the penguins. You can pretty much do it all. Another trip that we're doing is our Antarctica Weddell Sea and the Emperors. So along the peninsula, you don't get to see the emperor penguins unless you go over to the other side where Snow Hill Island is. So we're offering this trip November 24th to December 5th, 2026. And Snow Hill Island, you see it there on the map. It's quite incredible. What we'll do is, of course, we're going to be on the Ortelius. This ship houses a helicopter, so you need a helicopter to get into the Emperor Colony. The Emperor Colony, what we do is we'll fly over top, give those emperors lots of space. It's quite a large colony. We'll land about a mile on the other side, and then we'll be walking into the colony. And once you're in there, it is absolutely spectacular. You can see it. It's a fun place. And my colleague Kathy, she sent me this just yesterday, so I had to include it. Emperor babies are really cute. They're born October, November, and into December. So this trip being late November into December, you'll see their fluffy gray coats, but they'll be moving around some. So usually the colonies are really huddled together when the chicks are really, really young, but when they get to this size and they start moving around and squawking a little bit more, the colony will really spread out. So that is the excitement of Antarctica. So I wanted to give you the chance to ask some questions and even talk about some of the places you've been or anything you want.
Thank you, Dana. This is Mark again. Thank you for that presentation. You covered a lot of territory from one end of the planet to the other. The Antarctica business was a bit of an extra add-on we decided to put on, and we realized maybe it ate up a bit more into our time. This went on a bit longer than we thought. We said this would be a 1 hour talk. We don't want to abuse of your time. And if some of you have other obligations now and need to sign off, we won't be hurt to see you go. We understand. However, this is the question and answer session part of our talk. Now's the time to ask questions in that chat. I've got a couple questions for you, Dana. One asks if you ever did you work on a ship or were you there as a guest? Or how did you get to know the this business?
Yeah, when I started, I started selling trips for a ship operator, and I was lucky enough with that operator, I was able to go to work on the ships as well. So that's how I started spending a lot of
Okay.
time. So I've been back and forth between working on the ships and working in the Arctic and selling the trips as well.
Okay. Someone's asking about the lodge and the 2023 fires in Yellowknife. I suppose it escaped the fires.
Yeah, it did. It absolutely it ex escaped the fires. In fact, during the fire, the lodge changed ownership. And I was working a little bit with the new owner to make some changes there and just make it a little bit more cozy and give it a little bit of a facelift. So it wasn't affected by the fires, and everything is perfect and running as smoothly as it should there.
Very good. So that was from Heather Mack. Alice in Nishimoto is asking if you need to have a tripod for the land tours. I imagine for taking pictures, would that be Alice?
You definitely can, but you don't have to.
All right. Um, I'm not seeing any other questions. Now's the time, folks. Otherwise, we can certainly. Oh, here's something. Stephen Rainey. Hello, Stephen. Stephen was just with us recently on a trip. On the Emperor trip, would one see the other four types of penguins as well as the Emperor penguin?
You would definitely see some gentoos because you're going to be coming around Deception Island, and probably some chin straps. So three.
Okay, can't get it all, eh? Can't have it all. You'll only see the Galapagos penguin in Galapagos, I believe. Um, if someone decides to book on this trip, like Mira Cullum is asking, would you get advice? Would you give advice on what to bring in terms of clothing?
Yes, absolutely. One of our things that we like to do at CNH Tours is provide some personalized service. So we would definitely help you with all aspects of that.
Um, is there such a thing as a trip that goes only to South Georgia? I suppose this is from Ling Ma. Maybe Ling has already been to
Yeah,
the peninsula.
Ling, I have actually seen that, and I am not sure which operator is doing it. What they do is they'll only offer it every couple of years, so you kind of have to watch all the operators. But if we know that you're interested in something like that, I can definitely put my feelers out into my contacts and find out who's selling that right now.
Very good. That's why we have Dan on the team. She's got the network. Heather's asking if we have to buy all your warm gear for the Arctic for these trips, or is some of it provided?
The on the ship, you will be like when you're doing a ship-based tour, you'll be provided a parka, and you would bring with you waterproof pants. They would provide the boots. On a land-based trip, some of them offer the gear, some of them offer to rent it. Basically, it's whether it's included or whether you have to rent it through the company as a bit of an extra. But we would look into that as we know what you would need. Of course, we know that people are traveling, so they can't bring a lot of gear with them. So once we know what you need and what you won't have, we figure it out with the operation.
Very good. Very good. I don't see any more questions at this point. So as we have already abused the time that we asked people to share with us, I would propose that we end this. Although I see one last point. Someone's asking, what is the risk for the Emperor trip, that the helicopter will not be able to be used? That's a good point, because this is, I think on our website, we do make that point.
Yes, that is always a risk. And it is weather. Weather can sometimes stop that helicopter from being able to take off. You definitely want to purchase insurance. It's really one of those things that they allocate enough time for weather changes. It's like the trips that fly down to Antarctica and you get on the ship already in Antarctica. They have a bit of a contingency plan. Like if we can't fly today, they tell you how many days they're going to try for. The operation that we're using has luckily, touch wood, never had a problem. But I know a couple of the operations last year did have a problem with it.
Yes, I spoke to someone who'd been down a couple of times. They said it was at times they couldn't use a helicopter because it was all fogged in or something like this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
And
um,
we
Go
do
ahead.
look at that, and usually the operation is very accommodating. We just have to, it's one of those things that
Yeah.
we roll with.
Mother Nature, Mother Nature. Um, I'll take the last question here. Before I take the question, I'll just do a plug for the Northwest Passage trip that we're offering for August, September. It is a very good deal. It is a very good deal. We challenge you to find a similar trip, that is going for that price. The ship have a number of empty spots left, and I think they're keen on selling them, right? That's why they're allowing for this deal. So do have a look if you're interested in that. So the last question, okay, listen, okay, feel free to say goodbye, folks. We won't be hurt. Um, Someone asked, what was your favorite Arctic cruise? If you had to do one trip through the Arctic on a ship, which one would you do?
Oh,
Ah, Sophie's choice.
it would definitely be the Northwest Passage for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And someone asks where the Antarctica trip begins and end. Do you mind? I'll answer that one. I'd like to, I'd like to talk to it. It starts the trips we're offering start and end in Ushuaia in southern Argentina. So depending on what trip you take, they could be starting even in New Zealand or even Cape Town. But a lot of the trips, I think that's right, Dana. Most of the trips start in South America, Ushuaia. Yeah. So, folks, this is the end of our talk. I'm going to go and have dinner now. But this has been recorded, and I'm going to save the recording, share it with you all, and share it with those who signed up but weren't able to make it. And if you have any questions, if you want more information, please go to our website. Please reach out to Dana, dana@cnhtours.com, or me if you like. And we're there to help you think about options and just answer general questions as well. So, folks, Dana, thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you again on the 1st of May, we said. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, 1st of May, May Day. We'll send out the details on that talk as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Very good, everybody. Nice to see you all. Nice to see those names that I've seen before. Some of you I've met.